Well, good morning, everyone. You are with us on the second day of the week of Let Us Reason Together. And this is based off of Isaiah 118. Come now and let us reason together, says Yahweh. Though your sins are as scarlet, they will be as white as snow. Though they are red like crimson, they will be like wool. This is where we sit down, reason out current events, cultural shifts, and of course, this week's Torah portion. We can either push back or push through. Nevertheless, if iron does not sharpen iron, sparks will never fly, let alone ever get a fire going. So without a little heat and a good midrash, how will our hearts ever get soft and moldable enough to be transformed in the way that the Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, wants us to be, and maybe have a little fun along the way? We're going to have some fun today. We're going to have some information today. We're going to have some Torah portion, Brit Hadashah today, because you don't want to miss it. By the way, one of the things is there is a cultural shift that's going on. You need to stay tuned for that during our current event segment, and some interesting things that I'm looking forward to our discussion on. And this is, by the way, Monday, December the 16th, 2019, in the year, 2019. It's the 18th day of the 9th month of Kislev, or the 9th month of the Hebrew year 5780. And we would love for you to interact with us. We are live right now on Facebook and on YouTube. We'd love to hear your comments as we talk about these different things, and we'd love for you to join in. And in the meantime, let's talk about some weird and quirky celebrations. I want to bring one of my co-hosts in right now, Mr. Mark. Well, wait a minute. We have not just who I was going to say. It's Where'd It Go is with me today. I was going to say Mark David Smith, but it's Where'd It Go. How are you today?
I don't know where to go.
Yeah, it's kind of like who's on first, and where to go.
I'm trying to deal with my light situation here. It is one thing. We use a software called StreamYard, and before that, we used Google Hangouts, which went bye-bye, and so we had to look for something else. And this is an incredible software to use, but it doesn't help with the lighting. The lighting is more of a glare, when you put something on. And that's what I was trying to play with before we started. Let me show you real quick. It just looks a little there. See, it glares.
All right, yeah.
And I don't know. Tell me, which is better, that one or that?
Let me make my screen a little bit bigger here. Try that again. It's kind of like the eye doctor.
Number one or number two. And I got a number 3, 4, and 5 we could try too. But, this is probably all something we should have done before we started. But
yeah. Hey, let's go with this one right now.
Okay, let's go with this one.
Yeah.
And how do you like my hair back? Never mind. I'm sorry.
Comb over.
Comb over?
Yeah.
Oh, we can do that.
Try that. Yeah. There you go.
That's the way it won't stay. Yeah, I love comb overs. Comb overs are great. Let me put that down. I love it.
That's, when I know I need to get a haircut, is when I can do a complete comb over. If I just had a little of that spray on glue, then it looks like I have a full head of hair. Then I know I need a haircut. When the part, I can close my part. So I can close my part.
Yeah. The word haircut is a 4-letter word to me.
Oh, is that right?
Please don't use that.
Don't use it.
If you
Okay.
don't mind it. I don't mind.
Hey, let's talk about some weird and quirky celebrations today. Since I got you on the line here, Mark, it is now. I'm not endorsing these things. I'm not endorsing, but it is Writing Letter to Santa Claus Day. That's what they do in the Western world, and so that's what their weird and quirky celebration is today. How about this? Absolute relaxation day in front of the TV.
I'm all for that one.
Is it where the brain waves go into near coma zone all day
Yeah,
long.
and complete access to any online streaming service of movies, free access. So you just pick the movie and don't pay for it, and you're just kicking back in front of the TV, and just there he goes.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
Man, where do I go to get that?
Yeah.
It's there. It's there online. Where do I go?
Yeah. Just everything's online, right?
Where'd it go?
How about this random gifts day? Random gifts day. So
Like
what random gift can I give Miss Sandy Craig? Who will be joining me? Yeah, random gift day. It's a random gift day. She's like, I never get any gifts. Well, maybe it's the day for a random gift for my wife.
Out of all these years after this decade?
Hey, you're not on the screen. You can't talk yet. How about and then this, Mark? Spin the bottle day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, spin the bottle day. I can't say. I think I probably played spin the bottle once in my lifetime. Yeah, way back when. I haven't done it recently. Just want to let you know that once was when I was in my teenage years, and I didn't like it. I didn't like playing.
Now, is that the first time you met Sandy? Was at this place where they were playing Spin the Bottle? Is that how you met Sandy?
No,
okay.
I met Sandy at Hardee's.
At Harvard.
Hardee's restaurant.
Oh, at Hardee's. Oh,
yeah.
Really?
You remember Hardee's? I think it's become Carl's Jr. now.
Yeah, we have them here.
Yeah. So I met her at the exit door of Hardee's.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There was a gate. It was the exit gate at Hardee's, and she introduced herself. And some have heard this story, but she goes, "Hi, my name's Sandy, and this is Sandy, and this is Sandy too, and this is Margaret." And then she turned around and flipped her hair and walked out the door.
Okay, but you got to understand that's the first time he spoke to me, or I spoke to him.
We met.
He actually saw me 6 months before leading worship in this big mega church on New Year's Eve. And he had been watching me for 6 months.
Been watching her from afar.
I didn't know who he was.
And so then we're walking across the parking lot and made sure I was the last one out because
his mouth is like this.
We were on a singles rafting trip, whitewater rafting trip.
Oh, really?
We stopped at Hardee's, and so I was the one to make sure everybody was out. I'm following up.
You were a timekeeper, boy. They had no idea.
I'm walking out the door. There's Sandy with her 3 friends in front of me. And then she turns around again and she puts her hands on her hip and she says, "What? Have you been watching me from afar?"
I said admiring.
Oh.
And his mouth dropped like this.
I'm like,
I love it.
Because he had been. No.
She talked to me.
Because he had been admiring me from afar. And I didn't know him from anybody.
Yeah. So we continue to have a long distance relationship.
Oh, can I see how she flipped her hair?
Well, my hair was French braided.
Oh.
And I went.
She flipped that hair.
All right. Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I wanted to see.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you meet a girl and then as you're leaving and departing, she turns around and gives you a second look.
No, I was teasing
the
you.
second look. We had a conversation about that. The second look is always important.
My friend Sandy wanted to meet you.
And she did briefly, and we were the ones that talked. She missed out, didn't she?
Yeah, well, she went home and talked on her phone to all her friends, and they talked all about it.
Right. There you go. There you go.
That's not true.
All I can say, Mark, if John and I didn't have all those hours on the bus to talk, I would have never gone out with him after the first date. That's it.
Really?
Never. I was a one date person. So I had my standards, and if I didn't know about the Lord and all that stuff, his first date was terrible. So
Well, this sounds to me like a longer story that needs to be documented.
Than what we have time for.
Exactly.
So moving right along. Hey, by the way, it's Barbie and Barney Backlash Day. Yeah.
Barbie and Barney.
Like, I love you.
Yeah.
You love.
Right. And then it's also Boston Tea Party Day. And it's National Chocolate Covered Anything Day. Hey, we have some leftover popcorn from our little snack last night. We should dip it in chocolate.
And pour it on Barney and Barbie.
Party with, and have a Boston Tea Party with Barney and Barbie and
Barney and Barbie. That's right.
Yeah, and then and as we're talking about Barbie and Barney, it's Stupid Toy Day.
Stupid toy.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, have you guys seen the new Toy Story movie? Toy Story 4?
Nope.
Nor 3.
What?
Nope. Haven't seen it.
Okay.
Haven't seen 3 or 4.
Maybe 2. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. We saw 2 though. We saw.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. So how about a positive quote of the day? It is the set of the sails, not the direction of the wind, that determines which way we will go. And that's from Jim Rohn. I like that. It's the set of the sails, not the direction of the wind, that determines which way we'll go. How about funny quote of the day? You ready to laugh, Sandy? Okay. This is funny. This is from Bob Dole. So maybe it's a Doleism. The internet is a great way to get on the net.
Moving on.
It's not funny.
That was
I don't get it. So
yeah, the internet is a great way to get on the net.
It wasn't funny.
Yeah. Well, that was Bob Dole. I think people have laughed about that. Okay, how about this love quote of the day? And you're supposed to swoon when I say this. What a man takes in by contemplation, that he pours out in love.
Never seen it.
Meister Eckhart said that one. Right. Okay, let's move on. Let's just move on from that. Amos 3:7, verse of the day. Surely the Lord God does nothing unless he reveals his secret counsel to his servants, the prophets. And that is from the Haftorah portion. And what happened on this day in history? In 2016, I just have to make a comment. There was a 5-day pollution red alert declared in Beijing and 21 other Chinese cities classified by officials as a meteorological disaster. So that's China. They have no controls on their pollution. But in America, we're the ones that have the scrubbers and the washers and the pollutions and the mufflers and all of these cleaning things that from combustible engines and factories and stuff, that where we have so much cleaner air, and yet we're the bad guys, and we need to shut down all factories and move them offshore so they can have them overseas and pollute the earth. But it's our fault in America. All right. I just had to say that because
isn't it like it's always President Trump's fault? It's always America's fault.
Yeah, that's right.
So is it individually all together, or corporately all of us together's fault? In other words, no other words.
Yes.
It's corporately, it's all of our fault, or individually all together?
Both.
Oh,
yes. It's just the yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah,
I'm sorry then. Can I just, for the whole group, can I just say, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry.
What is that? Who's the?
Lo siento.
Greta Von Humbug, or whatever her name is, the one that got the Times Person of the Year. She thinks it's our fault.
Really, they gave.
Yeah. She's the brainwashed.
I don't even want to hear.
Swedish girl that they've been propping up in front of everybody that cried at the saying, "You must do something, or we're all going to die. We're going to die."
You are going to die. We are. It is appointed unto man one time to die.
Yeah. And so while she is shaming us, she rides around in first class on trains and in airplanes,
planes, and automobiles.
Yeah, she's traveling all over the world, making pollution wherever she goes, along with Al Gore and all these other climate
Okay,
people.
let's
all right, this is moving right along.
Wait, can I ask you a real quick question?
Yeah.
Based on that, before we move on, a quick one.
Yeah.
What's wrong with being brainwashed? I mean, there's a lot of times when I'm thinking, man, I wish I could just wash a bunch of that junk out of there that I've had in the 65 years. So what's wrong with being brainwashed?
You want to be neuralized, Mark?
Neuralized. Yeah, neuralized. Yeah.
Don't know what that means.
Men in Black.
Oh.
Yeah.
Actually, sometimes, sometimes that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind having one of those.
You've had a wonderful life.
That's right. You neuralize and you say, now go
feed your sheep.
Yeah. there you go. You wash the brain, and while in that implantable time after you've been neuralized, then you give these suggestions, and your life is different. Okay. All right. So, hey, so I have something to say, and I'm going to throw it in after one of our other segments about on the lighter side, jumpstart our brain. So I'm just going to wait for that. And I want to go ahead and jump into the Torah portion, Miss Sandy.
Well, where's Daryl today?
Daryl is
driving.
I think he's moving. This is his week. He's moving.
He's driving.
He's actually packing.
Packing.
They're driving, I think, on Friday.
Oh,
okay.
They're actually moving. They're putting all their stuff in a storage where they live, then taking what they need to live on to the new place and getting all that set up, and then come back and get their stuff.
Okay.
It's called downsizing. And if you would like to have me teach a segment on that, I can tell you, but it's only if you want to. It's not for everybody, but when you're moving, downsizing is a very good thing. But I didn't know that we could take a day off from the show. I thought this was mandatory to be on this show. I didn't know you could take a day off.
I have bad news for you, Mark. I have to take my mom to the surgeon next Monday.
Next Monday.
So guess what?
So you're taking off too?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got to take her to the surgeon.
When people are supposed to be on a show, but they're off for a week or something, I just think they don't love us anymore.
Well, it's just a one-day thing. I pray we'll go to the surgeon and come back home. So
okay. Well, I'm just thinking Daryl doesn't love us anymore. I know he's got something else to do, but
I have good news for you. Daryl does love you, Mark. You're his favorite person.
Okay. I need the validation. I just need validation. So
you're our favorite person too. Isn't that what you say? You're my favorite person.
Really? I am?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, what I say is you're one of my favorite.
You're one of our favorite people, Mark.
Because if I say you're my favorite person, then another person goes, well, I thought I was his favorite person. So you got to word it right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, should we talk about the tour portion?
Yes.
Yeah, let's get sure. Sure.
Because this tour portion is all about death and resurrection. Life, promotion.
So no more verbal hugs right now. We must move on
because we're going to talk about death and promotion and resurrection because they sort of all go hand in hand. If you didn't know this, their testing is usually means that you're getting ready for a promotion, but before promotion comes the desert, comes the big test. But outside of the promotion, you get a brand new garment, and what we see in this tour portion over and over as a constant theme is death and resurrection. So you may say, what are you talking about? And also we see some 2s and 3s and we see double dreams, and we're not going to get into the dreams except to say each dream, when you look at it, is held together by one thing. And they all, when you delve deep into them, one of the meanings is death and resurrection. It's just when we dream and we have vision, Do we have a tendency to focus on the promise instead of the journey to the promise? I would say yes. Because the one thing looks so great, but to get to that promotion, to get to that new garment takes a lot of heartache many times. Well, usually, because even Yeshua went to the desert before he walked out in power. So you may say, well, how was Joseph promoted? Well, that one's pretty easy. We get it. He was promoted by his father. He was promoted under Potiphar, and he was promoted under the keeper of the prison. But with each of those, he also descended. He went into the pit. So he was brought low 3 times, 3 promotion, 3 times that you descend, 3 times you brought low. And he was brought into slavery, and he was brought into the prison house, and he faced death and was delivered from death. First, where? In the pit, which we've all heard that before. Yes. Second part, as a slave, and third, as a prisoner. But also when we see passages that are prophetic and also messianic, oftentimes they will include the number 3. And so we see in Joseph's life this type of messianic figure, which we've heard that before. That's not new. But I want us to really think about what we have to do in our own lives, because I know so many of God's people, of Yah's people right now, are going through turmoil, are going through testing, are going through heartache. And I want to encourage you, because on the other side of that is a promotion. But we have to die to self. We have to be brought low. We have to sort of descend so that we can ascend in Messiah, in Yeshua. And that's what we see with his life. Even in the dreams are, the first dream is not only prophetic of Joseph's future, it's prophetic of the end times. But the end times believers are, we're not going to be just brought out. Sorry to burst your bubble, but we're not just going to escape all that's bad and be able to, as you say, eat bonbons and sit all happy. We're going to be going through stuff,
and
because
sit before the television day, relax before the television day. Yeah,
sometimes it's nice to relax before the television. Anyway, but in hindsight, Joseph gets it, because he becomes the type and shadow of Messiah who saves. But in the midst of our own lives, we each have a mission. We are to go out and be harvesters of the field. We are to go out and bring light of Yeshua. But a lot of times our own experiences, we may try to curse them, and in reality, that makes us who we are, that prunes us and gets us ready. That death of what we thought once was important, or that death of ourself, or that death that seems, hey, Father, I thought you said this and this about my life, but my life I'm living in, and it's completely opposite. Well, that's the death and resurrection and the promotion process. And it always comes with a new garment. It comes with a new anointing, a greater anointing. And, death says, now then, come and let us went for Yeshua. Let us kill him and throw him in or for Joseph, and throw him into one of the pits. And the wild beast devoured him. And then let us see what would become of his dreams. But Yeshua restored the dreams. What the enemy has meant for evil, Yah will always turn around. And I know this is basic, and it's sort of just what we've all heard all our lives with this Torah portion. But it is good to hear the reminder that the promise is still there. And in the journey there, he will never leave you nor forsake you. And he will work out all to his glory. But his word also says that he has come to give you life, and that more abundantly. He said, my plans for you, to give you hope in a future, to work for the good. In fact, when you break Jeremiah 29:11, my plans I plan for you. It's my plans I plan for you. When you break it into the Hebrew, plans for good, not for evil. And plans to give you a future. And if you remember what I've talked about before, a future is things to see what your future holds. All you do is look into the past victories Yah's done in your life. And that is prophetic of what he's doing for you in the present. So my encouragement this morning, you may be dying to self. You may feel like you're dying in the midst of your circumstances, and you are. You have got to die a type of death, but be of great courage, because it says, first off, testing occurs to those that Yah loves. And secondly, he is doing something, and the promise of promotion is there, but the dying has to come first. So,
all right. Yeah, that's good.
well, it's basic, but it's a reminder.
Yeah. Well, Mark, what are your thoughts on what Sandy's talking about in the Torah portion?
Or something.
A few months back at the church I've been going through, the pastor taught a sermon called "God's Not Done with You Yet," and then he used that concept within kind of a series of other series that he did, and I thought it was really, really good, because I think a lot of us get in a rut. I mean, stop and think back when you first got saved, back when you first found out about the lifestyle, even back in our Christian walk and all, is that we were so excited because it was a new journey. I think the excitement that comes from when we first come into our walk with the Lord is because we know that we're on this new journey, and we're on a journey, and we're going to learn, and we're going to find out new things, and we're excited about the new things that we just found out, that we just stepped into. And but as time goes on with anything and within any lifestyle, remember when you first found out about the Messianic lifestyle and all those new things, and those it all came together, that type of thing, then you're excited about it. But as time goes on, and I think even, as we've all heard, and we've even talked about this in depth, and Brad Scott is talking about it on a regular basis, is the dropping off of people that are within the Messianic lifestyle. I mean, we see it. We saw it over a year ago with the Lamb Radio and all the other ministries within the Messianic lifestyle have reported that they see a drop off of people that are even interested in the lifestyle. They may even still be lighting candles on Friday night, but when it comes to coming to services or communicating and being a part of relationships within the lifestyle, there's a great dropping off. And it's the same thing with Christianity. Christianity continues to grow, but there's a dropping off a lot of times. And within what we live, we get this rut, and we start losing that excitement. And so we're no longer pursuing that excitement. We're no longer pursuing those things that excited us so much. And so it's what you're talking about. There are different things that the Lord brings to us in dreams, and we get this and we find something else out, and we're excited about that, and then it all kind of comes to pass again. So what I like is that constant encouragement that God is not done with us yet. There is still a massive amount of life within our lifestyle that we can still live out, and we can learn, and we can be excited about. We can have that joy and that excitement every single day if we'll pursue it. But if we get caught up in the world's rut and in not, I think it's just it. If we don't pursue it, then I mean, God can use us, but it's a two-way street too. If we're in a rut and we're not really pursuing God, we're not pursuing the things of God and something new that excites us. I honestly believe God is like sitting there like, come on, I need you to do your part too. I need you to pursue. I mean, I have all this for you. I've already done everything that needs to be done. I need for you now to pursue that. And if we don't, then we lose the fact that God's not done with us yet. You know, he's got so much more for us.
Right. Yeah.
I just, when you were talking about the excitement, I don't know if you heard the testimony I gave on Jonathan this morning.
I heard the name Jonathan, but I was in the midst of something else.
Well, he has been moved. He was moved to the faith-based dorm. And anyway, just to skip stuff, his Bible study is very exciting, and he has people that are learning. And well, this one young man, he's about 28 years old, and he can't wait. And the Bible study is like 2 or 3 hours every day, and he is like, I think I've been Messianic all my life. He's so excited. He is just telling everybody, and he is living so out loud. Here he is. And he's got others that feel the same way, but there's one young man in particular. And now Jonathan, because he's giving forth that word, and he's got this excitement in this dorm. The word of the day is now the word that they're using more often than any is Dayanu, because it was enough. And so I think of that excitement that's happening right there in the midst of prison, right there in the midst of the pit, just as it was with Joseph. I bet you he told some stories, and he got some people excited saying, look, here I am. I found the truth. So
yeah,
anyway,
I like it. Dayanu is, it would have been enough.
It would have been enough.
It would have been enough. And it's like, oh my gosh, if we could live that Abigail O'Hare did an incredible teaching on it would have been enough about 3 years ago, right after Passover. That blew me away, and it had me in tears, because I had lost that understanding of oh my gosh, God, it would have been enough if you'd have just saved me. I should be thrilled about that every single day, even if I don't ever get anything else.
I love it, because right now we've got those men sitting in prison with nothing, saying, well, and I'm going past it would have been to it is, because they're living it. It is enough. What you've already done is enough. Right. So anyway, it's just cool.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. And when y'all were talking, I was just thinking about this. I say this on occasion, and that the Father's more interested in our journey than he is in. I mean, he wants us to make the destination, but in that journey, he's more about developing our character in the midst of all that, because it's always it's about us being the bride. It's about us becoming the bride. It's where we have to be transformed into the image of the bride that is good enough for his son, that his son wants to be with for eternity. I mean, because we think about the bride in the wilderness was not a bride that he wanted to stay with, considering the golden calf incident, all the griping and the complaining and the journeys and everything like that. We think about the journey that now the bride of Messiah has been on for 2,000 years, beyond 2,000 years since Messiah came. I think about what a journey in order to develop us for that day. We hear about the day of the Lord, and we know the day of the Lord comes with great trembling and fear and terror and whatever we might think, but the day of the Lord is a great day. It's an awesome day. And so we know that is coming. So we need to rise up to have that character to be able to face that day as it comes. So that was just some thoughts that I had on that. So Yeah, very good. Well, and going back to the verse of the day, Amos 3:7 says, surely the Lord God does nothing unless he reveals his secret counsel to his servants, the prophets. And I just think that goes along with that, because he wants to reveal his heart before it ever arrives, right?
And he revealed it to Joseph.
Yeah, revealed it to Joseph. So what a great thing. Well, hey, okay, so I have 2 articles today.
Choose.
All right. And since you brought it up, Mark, I'm going to article number 2 because I was going to use article number 1, which is quite relevant. It's a current event. It's something that's going on. It's affecting us. And yet, because it has to do with how the United States, this is the first article. I'm going to skip it. May have to wait till next week to do it, or do it at another time, where the U.S. has the highest rate of children living with a single parent in the entire world. I wanted to talk about that. But because you brought it up, I'm going to bring up the other one. And I pulled this off of stevequail.com this morning. It's an article over at 538.com. And it's where millennials are leaving religion and not coming back. And it's an article by Daniel Cox and Amelia Thompson DeVoe. Because this is very interesting what you were saying, Mark, and you're bringing out, because it's affecting the Messianic community, the Hebrew roots communities, but it is in the
It's affecting everybody.
It's affecting everybody. So this is what the article is saying. It says millennials have earned a reputation for reshaping industries and institutions, shaking up the workplace, transforming dating culture, and rethinking parenthood. They've also had a dramatic impact on American religious life. And I know how you love those millennials, Mark. 4 in 10 millennials now say they are religiously unaffiliated, according to the Pew Research Center. In fact, millennials, those between the ages of 23 and 38, are now almost as likely to say they have no religion as they are to identify as, and they use the word in the article, as Christian. So let's just say having a biblical faith. For a long time, though, it wasn't clear that whether this youthful defection from a religion would be temporary or permanent. It seemed possible that as millennials grew older, at least some would return to more traditional religious life. But there's mounting evidence that today's younger generations may be leaving a religion for good. Social science research has long suggested that Americans' relationship with religion has a tidal quality. People who are raised religious find themselves drifting away as young adults, only to be drawn back in when they find spouses and begin to raise their own families. Some argued that young adults just hadn't yet been pulled back into the fold of organized religion, especially since they were hitting major milestones like marriage and parenthood later on. But now millennials have spouses, children, and mortgages, and there's little evidence of a corresponding surge in religious interest. A new national survey from the American Enterprise Institute of more than 2,500 Americans found a few reasons why millennials may not return to the religious fold. One of the authors of this article helped conduct the survey. And it says, for one thing, millennials never had strong ties to religion to begin with, which means they are less likely to develop habits or associations that make it easier to return to a religious community. Young adults are also increasingly likely to have a spouse who is non-religious, which may help reinforce their secular worldview. And changing views about the relationship between morality and religion also appear to have convinced many young adults that religious institutions are simply irrelevant or unnecessary for their children. So these are some of the things that this article is talking about. It is about an exodus from organized religion, and where there's been simply a definite shift between the baby boomers to the millennials. And so millennials may be symbols of a broader societal shift away from religion, but they didn't get started on their own. Parents are at least partly responsible for the widening generational gap in religion, in religious identity and beliefs, and they are more likely than previous generations to raise their children without any connection to organized religion. So anyway, let's throw it on the table. There's more in this article that's interesting, but that's kind of the gist of it. And Sandy, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think you should go to Mark first, but I like what your article says later is that a parent's religious identity can do a lot to shape a child's religious habits and beliefs. And we know that. And shame on us, shame on our generation, shame on us. Because we weren't, let's be honest, the passion and the living it out has gone by the wayside from generation to generation. And here we are. So, yeah, Mark, jump in.
Yeah. Mark, jump in there. And
okay. I'm actually trying to look up here and see, there's an article on, Wikipedia that says list of generations, and I'm trying to look and see. Take me off full screen. It's
okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah, we're good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. Yes, you're right. Yeah, I have disdain for millennials, but it's so hard to verbalize, and without saying I don't want to be negative. So my brain should already be positive about it, but it's true. We've talked about this before. Is that it's how come we talk about millennials and baby boomers more than Gen X and the other ones?
Right now, because they're the ones that are forming and shaping society. Think about that.
I know, but
these are the leaders that are being raised up.
Well, they're not. If baby boomers are 23 to 38, they're already leading. Not baby boomers.
Millennials.
If millennials are 23 to 38, that means they're already leading.
Oh, I get that. I get that. I'm just saying that I don't know why. I need to know why this generation 23 to 38s that are right now, why are they the way that they are? And I have my own opinion on it, but I think this is the reason. The reason I haven't even given a reason.
One of the things that I'm thinking about in regards to this is there's a number of cultural things that have taken place that have actually minimized the role of the institution of religion, so to speak, in people's lives, because other things have become greater. And one is in the secularization of our public education, the government schools. I think that has a huge impact because
colleges, because that's what they're with every day.
Yeah, they have that every day. They have it, and they want to increase the amount of hours in a day that a child's in school.
Indoctrinating,
yeah. and then the schools, they say that religion has no voice. So a child who's, as Rush Limbaugh says, is a young head full of mush, is just ready to be. They absorb everything that comes in, and if that's the most common, if the voice is louder among the teachers and the authorities in their lives, and not the parents and not the preachers, the pastors, the teachers in the churches or the assemblies or whatever, then these children are being raised up with that louder voice.
I get it. I get it. How old is Jonathan?
He is 30.
He's 30.
Yeah.
So he's a millennial.
Yeah.
And my daughter is a millennial.
Yeah.
But they were raised.
Yeah. See,
Yah was a constant part of their life, and they weren't raised in the school system.
Well, that's true too. Yet still, Sandy and John, there are a massive amount of other kids that I know personally, homeschooled, millennials, and Messianics, and they're not following the Lord, and I know their families. I know their parents are people that are serving God to the max right? Still today, and were when they were raising their kids, yet their kids have decided not to stay with it. Maybe they, like I say, they do lighting the candles. So I don't get it. I understand the influence of the world. I understand that each individual person has lived through a life of their own, so they come in contact with different influences than, say, Jonathan or my Sarah, who are a man and a woman of God, unsurpassed by other people that I know. That's what I say. Both those millennials are a man and woman of God, unsurpassed by other men and women of God I've ever known. But I don't know. I'm just saying that I think it goes individually more than a mass quantity type thing. And I of course, we know the world has changed. The cultures of the world in every society around the world has changed since we were 23 to 38. So we know that, and it's changing drastically. It constantly comes to my mind where the scripture, I don't know where it is, but I've been told, I don't even know if it's in the Bible, but I've been told it's the scripture, that in the last days, knowledge will increase. And I'm real sure it's in there somewhere. I just don't know where.
Yeah,
Where's Dr. Scotty?
Daniel refers to that.
Yeah, but knowledge will increase. I think that knowledge is increasing so massively today that it's knowledge that is pursued rather than a relationship with God and other people in that lifestyle. I think that's what the deal is. And if nothing else, we should understand that it's doing nothing but proving we are in the last days.
Yes.
Well, but even like you said, even in our communities, in the ones that we see a lot, is that knowledge is pursued over anything else in the Torah community. It's the new knowledge, the new nugget, the new thing that nobody else knows, rather than worship, rather than
yeah. Oh, I see. I get what you're saying. Yes. That's true. That's true. Even on those that are pursuing the Lord, yes.
And it's empty. It's empty because what's the point?
Well,
I get it. I'm with you.
And this is something that we've been talking about at Life of Worship and a little bit on Walking in Spirit and Truth, shameless plug, on Tuesday nights, and it has to do with what Paul says over in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, where he says, talking in this letter to the 1 Corinthians. By the way, keeping in mind, I like what Maria Merola says, because it's something that I've said a lot, is that the New Testament is a commentary on the Torah. It's a commentary on the Old Testament. But this is what Paul says, addressing the assembly at Corinth. He said, "In my message and my preaching were not in persuasive words of wisdom, but in demonstration of the Spirit and of power, that your faith should not rest on the wisdom of men, but on the power of God." Now, here's a guy that's a rabbi trained in the highest of highest of all of the rabbinical work, under Gamaliel at that time, and Gamaliel. And then think about this. So here he's saying, I don't want your faith to be rest on this extensive knowledge that I have. I want because I want it to be tied to the power of God, so that it's based on, more than just the pursuit of knowledge.
Yeah.
And I wonder is that what organized religion has done? Is that what's happened in our Hebrew roots and our Messianic communities? Is that we've pursued the knowledge, and yet we didn't even follow what one of the major writers of the New Testament, the Brit Hadashah, has did in his own ministry, and that was to say, look, I can bring you persuasive words, but you know what? Those words will fade away. But if you have an encounter with the living God, then your life will be changed forever. And I'm just wondering is that what's affected in America? We've watered down religion to the point that there's nothing, there's no hook. It is just a procedure of liturgy. Yeah. And some people are drawn to that. I remember a college friend that he loved going to a specific denominational church and the hymns and stuff. And I'm like, I can't do that. I have to have these. I don't relate to the hymns. I relate to the praise choruses and the more modern worship. That's what captivates my heart. And yet worship was big, but the even more importantly is the foundation of our faith is based on a living encounter with God, which is supernatural. And I'm just wondering, is that what is really lacking? Are we lacking that within our own families? Because even families that brought their kids up in going to an assembly, they have somehow those kids are still walking away because is the dynamic not demonstrated within the household? And again, we have to think about the livelihoods of our congregations and the effect that we have on the community, and there's still the ability to reach out to a community if there is this lack of interest. What else do we have if the wisdom and the knowledge and these wise words and teachings and whatever, if that's not reaching them, something has to. And because life brings about a need for supernatural encounters of God, because sometimes we can't get through the hiccups of life without a miracle. And what are we doing? Have we missed that? Have we lost that somewhere? I mean, those are just some things that I'm thinking about. And
well, real quickly, I know we need to go to the next segment, but I'm trying to write down notes as I'm thinking, because I want to listen and I want to respond too.
Yeah.
What I hear, and I think where it is a Berean balance. The Bereans were the ones that went and searched everything out. They're the ones that needed to know everything, how the knowledge and how to use it and the wisdom and everything. But there's a Berean balance. There's nothing wrong with wanting to search those things out and to learn the Hebrew words and the meanings of them and everything. But there's a balance there that needs to be used. Now that you're learning these, apply that to your understanding of how to use it and where it applies to you personally and corporately within the body of Messiah.
Yes,
there's got to be a balance there, and I think
agree. That's a good point. Good point.
Each different person has a character, okay, and that character will tell you whether or not they're going to go a certain way. And for instance, like there are praise and worship people that really don't want to get into the word. There are people, the Bereans, that want to get into the word, but they're not really into the praise and worship. And there are, there's so many different aspects of this that there has to be a balance. Doesn't mean that you can't put one thing away and not and I've been a teacher of this. There's nothing wrong with being a sheep. There's nothing wrong with not pursuing all the major intricate levels of the Torah. There's nothing wrong with that. But it also, you shouldn't just do away with that. You should still find a balance of how you can get things out of the Word of God and yet be a praise and worshiper, because it all balances together and we have to have it all. I think that's one of the things that may have happened to our millennials is that they pursue too much of this character and leave that character just completely, that part of living a Torah lifestyle in the wayside. and then the world influence comes in, and there's not a balance, so it takes them away completely. So I think it happens with everybody. You, once again, just like I said before, you have to pursue your lifestyle. If you don't pursue it, you'll lose it. That's all there is to it. So anyway, that's
all right.
Ending spiel there.
Yeah, no, that's good, Mark. I appreciate that, and it is. I do agree that it's a balance in all of it. It's certainly a balance, and because we just can't have an empty pursuit of God without some type of knowledge of God, and so but that's twofold. Part of it's revelation, part of it's the Word, part of it's an encounter, part of it is the seeking out of those being a Berean and seeking out that truth and that knowledge, and yet having what is the Agadah, the inspiration that comes from it. How do you apply it to everyday life as opposed to the mechanics of the word itself as well? So good stuff. Good word. Well, hey, let's go ahead and let's jump over into the Brit Hadashah portion in this last segment of the show today. Mark, what do you got for us on the Brit Hadashah?
Okay, Matthew 1:18 through 25. I'm gonna try something, see if this works. Can you see me?
Yes.
You can? Okay, so let's see. Can you hear this?
But as he considered these things,
yes,
you can hear that,
but it's low.
Turn it up.
Turn it up.
Yeah, can you do that?
It's up full blast. I think it's up full blast. Yeah, it is. Never mind. I'm gonna try something later on, but not now. So Matthew 1:18 through 25, the birth of Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach. Now the birth of Yeshua took place in this way. His mother Mary had been betrothed to Joseph, and she was found to be with child from the Holy Spirit. It doesn't say how she was found to be, except they just know. And her husband Joseph, being a just man and unwilling to put her to shame. Now, see, that's a man that's pursuing pursuing God. That's a Jew that really wants things to work out there. And he, but as he considered these things, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, do not fear to take Mary as your wife, for that which is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. I think, I don't, she will bear a son, and you shall call his name Yeshua, for he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which means God with us. When Joseph woke from sleep, he did as the angel of the Lord commanded him. He took his wife, but knew her not until she had given birth to a son, and he called his name Yeshua. Okay, dreams. It's that's what ties this to the Torah portion, but I think it's very interesting that as an angel came to him in the dream, he didn't just have a dream and it played out. Here, let me just say this first: is that when I have a dream, most of my dreams I don't remember, first of all, but second of all, you probably don't want to know what was in my dream. They're so they're just nothingness, or they're as whacked as they can be. But I did have one dream in my 65 years of life that literally changed my life, and I can understand how that could work, because it just affects you. It it affects you, and it I don't know what other words to use, but it makes you want to do something about the dream. And like I say, my other dreams, I don't even tell anybody what, if I remember, or it's not worth telling somebody about. So you know that it's from God when it's something that needs to affect. But what I find is, for me and for Joseph, there is this dream of the angel coming to him was specifically for him. And so was my dream. It was specifically for me. I know other people have dreams and they want to verbalize this to everybody, but I'm not so sure that every dream needs to be shared with everybody. I think when the Lord gives you something, and I don't know, because I am not everybody else, I'm only me, so I can only speak for me. But the reason I say that is because one of the reasons that I left the Christian lifestyle was because of how easy it was for people to verbalize their dreams, or the Lord told me this about you, or the Lord wants me to give you this message, and how easy people just accept that and go with it. I personally can't do that. I have a real hard time with that, because I've met so many people that I just didn't have a lot of respect for in the first place, and they go around and tell people, that the Lord told me to tell you this, or this kind of stuff, and or thus saith the Lord, and that type of thing. And within Christianity, and especially, of course, in the spirit-filled churches, the interdenominational churches, gospel, whatever you want to call them, all of those type Pentecostal type churches, which I consider myself Pentecostal. I consider myself walking in the Spirit of the Lord, and in the gifts of the Holy Spirit, that type of thing. But I just have a problem with that. I think sometimes it's too easy for people to just verbalize this when maybe they did get something from the Lord, but they haven't confirmed it. They haven't, they just make it a common thing with themselves, and that just bothers me, and I can't do that, and I can't accept that, because I personally don't get it myself. And once again, I think most dreams and most things that the Lord gives you are for you. And so that's kind of my deal. I think in the Messianic lifestyle, we don't have as much of that, though a lot of the Christian Pentecostal stuff have come in. People come into this lifestyle bringing that stuff in, and I know there's people that disagree with me, most likely those people. And anyway, that's what I got.
No, that's some good points, Mark. We had a gentleman that was part of our congregation several years ago.
Many years ago.
Yeah, it was, and everything that he did was, the Lord told me this, the Lord told me that, the Lord, and he that's almost how he started every sentence. and I'm like, and I finally stopped him, and I said to him, I said, sometimes, let me put it this way, God's given us a brain to think, and sometimes these thoughts are just our own thoughts. They're not good, they're not bad, they're just thoughts. and they're impressions that our thought process does about doing something and what we're going to wear today and where we're going to go. It's not the Lord told me to wear this today and the Lord told me to go there, even though I'm not discounting that the Lord won't tell us to do certain things for particular reasons and purposes. But for the most part, he's created us to be a being who has the ability to choose and make choices, and he wants to be involved in those choices. But he makes us so that we're independent thinkers. And every dream is not of the Lord. Every dream that isn't necessarily have some type of spiritual interpretation to it, even though there's dream books out there and with this is what symbolism is and all that sort of thing. Not every dream is to be interpreted. It's just our brain processing, the process of our soul processing through the things of life, and we've got to keep that in balance. And yet, on the other side, there are prophetic words that are spoken. There are prophetic dreams. I remember having a dream, and it affected my life, and it's affected our ministry. That back in 1999, I had a dream where we were living in a house that we were not living in at the time, and it's not the house that we're living in right now. It's kind of an older house that had a big front porch. We're kind of like a shotgun house that anyway, I came out on the front porch and into the front yard, and I looked up and I saw an intercontinental ballistic missile. It was being launched from Amarillo, and I'm like, oh no, we have 20
from Amarillo.
Yeah, it was from Amarillo launching out from here. So of course, outside of Amarillo, most people that maybe you don't know this, but there's Pantex, which is one of the big bomb making and disassembly plants in America. And so anyway, I don't think they have a launching place around here, but that was in my dream, and it was going up, and it's 25 minutes. We have 25 minutes before incoming. And so I run in the house. I tell Sandy to get Jonathan, get the pets, jump in our van, and go to Palo Duro Canyon, which is 20 miles south of town. It's the second largest canyon in America. And go down there. And she goes, what about you? I'll join you. Don't worry about me. And I take off back out of the house, leap off the front porch, run down the sidewalk, and I'm going to the neighborhood. And I'm saying, you have 25 minutes, 25 minutes. And people are out there in the park. They're throwing the ball and barbecuing in the backyard, eating dinner, watching TV. And I'm like going into people's houses trying to say, you have 25 minutes. You got 25 minutes. And no one would listen. And that changed. Literally, it changed my outlook on life because of the urgency of the hour. That was 1999.
And you still believe it's yet to be fulfilled.
I believe it's yet to be fulfilled. That's right. In that there'll be a time, that we under fire in our own nation, and and it's imminent death, and people will be out there living life as if today will be no different than tomorrow, and tomorrow or yesterday, and tomorrow will be no different than today. And so those things affect us. And so from that point forward, the things, my thought process, the way I thought was no longer living in that normalcy bias, but in the thinking in terms of eternity and how I live my life. And I had been a believer for years at that point in time, but it was like a wake-up call. It shook me to the core. And that, I believe with all my heart, that was the Father shaking me to the core through a dream. And so
that was for more than you.
Yeah, it was more than, because that's been a message that literally has echoed in our ministry. So since before we even had Life of Worship. So anyway, any other thoughts you have, Sandy, on that? No. Okay. Mark, any follow-up thoughts?
No, I think it's just as with everything else we've been talking about, there's a balance. We need people are people. And if they think that they need to share every little tidbit that they learn or they hear from God or didn't hear from God, but they think they heard from God, if then that's who they are. And I guess we need to have patience with them, but as the mature ones that we are. I'm assuming we're the mature ones. Is to be ready and let God lead us into helping them understand. Just like John did with this other gentleman, and hope that they take the advice. Be ready in season and out of season to have to deal with it. I personally, I have a hard time with it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I do have to say, the first lunch meeting that I had with the pastor from the church I'm going to, this was one of the main points that I brought up in the end, because their church is extremely Pentecostal, very Pentecostal, but yet there's such a heavy balance on the gifts of the Spirit and how they're used and what he accepts and what he doesn't accept and that type of thing. And this is one of the issues we talked about, and he agreed vehemently, that is a balance within the Pentecostal lifestyle that really needs to happen, that isn't happening. And I think it's one of the things that makes people not want to be a part of. I mean, especially if you're kind of new to it and you hear all this, thus saith the Lord, and Chandala, 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 and all this kind of stuff. It kind of throws people off because the balance is not there. So anyway, as leaders in any community, we need to be the mature ones and help them balance that out.
Yeah, exactly. And we always have to consider our audience. And that's the other thing, is that who's around, because, in the midst of our fervency, we could turn a lot of people off in regards to connecting them with what the Father's doing, and whether it's through the gifts of the Spirit and that type of thing, and as well as the other side of it, where there's just completely imbalance and it's knowledge only. And it's very important. We've got to consider everybody, but ultimately we've got, as my role as a pastor is to push people in the direction that the Father's leading, so to speak. And that's, or you might say, pull them, but a shepherd leads his flock from behind. And that's what you do, is you got to get them to that living water. You got to get them to the green pastures. So anyway, well, hey, good show. Good thoughts today. Really appreciate it. We did miss Daryl, so hopefully we'll get to see him back next week after he completes his move down there to Niagara Falls. And but if you like what you're hearing today on the show, give us a thumbs up and share it, and let people know on your social media. And stay tuned for next time. If you missed this show, and there's several different, all of our shows are timeless, so you can always go back and look in the archives and see what we're talking about.
The next chapter coming up this Thursday. Sandy's actually going to be on it. She's she every once in a while she just doesn't show up for a show, and I just have to take over.
Yeah, the host needs see how she is. No.
I guess she's going to be on this Thursday. I really haven't heard anything.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So
she had a good excuse last week. She was taking care of
that's what I heard. Yeah, I heard she had a good excuse. And that's really all it is an excuse, isn't it?
Whatever.
And my new show is coming up in 2 weeks on January 1st.
Yeah. January 1st, you're going to launch that, aren't you?
So. I am. And if you thought that you've seen me do some wacky things, you ain't seen nothing yet. Right. I got some massive ideas for some things, and I'm hoping Sandy, I'm going to leave the show as a wide open. Of course, we all know the platform we use here. It's an open source, so anybody that has the page, which is all our producers. I'm leaving it open. Anybody that wants to just pop in anytime they want to, no matter what the deal is, whether or not they told me or not. Hopefully, I'm just hoping for some big surprises of people that will just pop in. And both of you are welcome every minute of every show that you want to come on and just pop in and be a part of. But there is a but there. Whenever you come in, no matter what segment I'm doing, you have to be a part of that segment and enter in, and you may be challenged. So,
okay.
So,
well, Mark, thanks for that. I'm looking forward to seeing that, and maybe just showing up every once in a while.
That's what I want, and I put the word out there to a lot of people that we know in the Messianic community. That we know and respect, and they have the ability to just pop in when they want to too. So
excellent. Well, I want to say thank you, Mark and Sandy, for joining me today on Let Us Reason Together. And so on behalf of this show, this is John Craig, and until next time, shalom.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.